Okay, if by God's grace, I'm going to change the format of today's topic. The topic will remain the same, but the format of how we're going to have this sermon is going to change because lots of things that I want to say, I have mentioned in one way or another. So I'd like to see how we are developing, whether you understand me or not, whether you're following me or not. I want to see. So what am I going to do? I am going to invite people. We're going to read things, and then I want you to comment, to give comments. So I will need to have two microphones, or at least one more, on both sides, and obviously I will have my own microphone. And oh, so because all of you have been sitting, but now all of you will need to make a step towards this. If you don't respect anybody else but Pastor Sunday and you have a crisis, you can just leave this hall right now, because I want to hear the people. I don't want only to work one way. I'm not a one-way road that I'm just giving and giving and giving. I don't even know whether people are receiving it or not, because my goal is not just to give information. I want to hear whether the information has been digested. So I want to see how I have been heard, whether people understood. So prepare, and when I say prepare, that doesn't mean fear. You don't have to be afraid. I understand that I need to just tell you basic things, but I am going to explain to you what it means to be prepared. You are sitting there. I will give microphone to people, offer the microphone to people. What does it mean to be prepared? Some people think that whether you will be able to say something or not, but that's not it. To be prepared means that you will focus on God and you'll say, okay, God, and you will do what I did this afternoon when I moved to another wave of the Spirit, and I told the Holy Spirit I'm ready to do this or that. So right now you don't need to hear with your ears. You shouldn't be listening with your ears. You need to see it. Prepare. You don't know yet what you're going to say. You don't know yet what you're going to be asked. But how can you be ready? You can remain on your place, knowing that you need to be ready, and the most important is not to be ready physically, but to be ready in your spirit. So what do? When I need to be ready? I just calm down and I connect. I connect to the spirit, and I work. I don't know what the question is going to be, but I connect, and God is here with me. He's not going to leave me nor forsake me, and I know that. He says that I will give you the mouth of wisdom, and you will not know what to say, but I will be there. So you just need to be connected. So make sure you establish the connection. So how do you do that? You just imagine that He is here, not somewhere there in heaven, but He is here, right next to me. I hold your hand, Lord. I kiss your feet, or I kiss your hands. So establish the connection. Imagine that God is right here with you. Hug Him, hold on to Him, hold hands with Him, and because He says He's here. So then you will know that He is with you and you are with Him, and you hold on to this word. God said that I am in you and you are in me. So see it, imagine it, turn this word into flesh, into physical material. You do not see Him physically, but you know that He is here. The same way, if you close your eyes, just let's try it. Close your eyes. All of you, close your eyes. And imagine that I am here on the stage. You don't need to see me physically. You do not need to see my nose and my mouth and everything. Just imagine that you are still seeing me even though your eyes are closed. So, do you see me? Just see me right now with your eyes closed. Even if I'm talking, and right now I'm not going to talk. Will you still see me? Imagine that when I'm not saying Pastor Sunday is on the podium, but in your spirit, do you see me? Is it working? Am I still on the podium? And now imagine that I'm not on the podium, but I'm right like in front of your face, like right in front of you, that you can even touch me. Does it work? You don't need to physically see me, but with your eyes closed, just imagine I'm right in front of you. You can even hold hands with me. So the same way, instead of me, imagine that God is right in front of you and touch him, feel his presence. Feel that he's covering you in front of you, behind you, on your sides, from the top. And this is the connection. Have you gotten the connection? Let's work on. Amen. Let's go on. So this is how you're supposed to do every day when you pray. And Pastor Irina Filaeva said a very good thing yesterday. She said, I woke up and I started just praying in tongues. And not even imagining anything, just still being switched off. But you not only need to be present in your consciousness, but you also need to establish a connection. And only then your prayer will have a point. So you don't only work but on autopilot, but can you imagine praying while you're not even on? So our topic today, you are as much a personality, as you are in consciousness. You are as much a personality as you are conscious. You are as much a personality as you are conscious. Do we have additional microphones? I did say that like 10 minutes ago. We don't have microphones in the front. That's wonderful. Miracles and wonders. Okay, you come over here. There is a microphone over there, so we're going to use that microphone for that part, and we're going to use this microphone for this part. So you stay there. Why both of them went there? I need just one of you to be there. Wonderful. We need to switch off the lights over the screen. How much of a personality am I? Luke 2:52. Jesus, okay, maybe it's better for me to be an operator. Maybe things would work better. Luke 2:52. And Jesus increased in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and man. Here we see several key words. Jesus increased in wisdom, stature, and favor with God and man. So above all, what did he increase in? I can't hear you. Wisdom. So what do you think? How does wisdom come about? How can you be increasing in wisdom just because God loved him and because he is God's son? Of course, he is so lucky. Of course, if I would have given my son wisdom if I could. Yeah, obviously. It's Jesus. It's the Son of God. Yeah, God poured everything upon him. So there you go. He is wise. That's why he increased in wisdom. Or how did Jesus manage to increase in wisdom? What does it mean to increase in wisdom? How do you say that? It's like he was fish in water. That's how, like being increasing in something. He had so much wisdom that it was like overly wise. And that was when he was still young. So how did he find this wisdom? Who can tell me? There is a hand over there in the back. The microphone must be switched on. Check that. Of course, he didn't even check before I asked him to check. Okay, he educated himself. He studied. That's how he became wise. Exactly. If he didn't study, if he didn't fill himself with knowledge, he wouldn't have anything to share. What is wisdom? Wisdom is a combination of acquired knowledge, which have become understanding in a man, and understanding is the ability to turn knowledge into an image or a plan of action, so that it would become a part of you to such an extent that you can act automatically the right way. This is what it means to acquire wisdom. And when the corresponding situation happens, you automatically react the right way. So Jesus worked on himself, and wisdom comes through establishing the acquired knowledge into your behavioral pattern. So you not only heard a piece of knowledge, you not only acquired that knowledge, but you turn this knowledge into the model or pattern of your behavior. So therefore, the acquired knowledge becomes the lifestyle and the reason for all, or the basis for all your actions. So acquired knowledge or understanding becomes the basis for all your actions. Therefore, I do not act because I feel pain, or because I feel this or that, because I was offended, or because that's how I feel. Because I cannot say that I don't feel it if I feel it. Yeah? No. But I act in a certain way because I can put my feelings aside, my pains aside, and act the way I'm supposed to act in such a situation. And that's when you are wise. Wisdom is also ability to behave or to act according to the knowledge and understanding which you have. For example, many people know that God said that we should love our enemies, but they can't love their enemies. So they have the knowledge that they should love their enemies, but they cannot love their enemies. So wisdom is when you have turned your knowledge into practice, and you automatically love your enemies because this truth has become part of you, part of your behavioral patterns, because this is what is written, and there is no difference, there is no gap between what I know and what I do. I don't know if you see this. So this part of life, it's written that Jesus increased. So everything in wisdom, so everything he knew, he acted accordingly. There is no higher factor. There is no higher, there is no other way to define wisdom. There is no slyness. There is no contradiction between what he knows and how he acts. And that's the highest level of righteousness, when his actions correspond to what he knows. And this is the highest level of life. But for that to become your life, you have to create the model of this behavior inside of yourself, at first, because you will not act like that automatically. You first need to form such reactions and such behavior inside of yourself before it happens automatically when the situation comes. And then it's written that he increased in stature, which means in his physical growth. So he set increase in his wisdom higher than his physical well-being, his physical prosperity. And also he put the building himself up and his wisdom above his relationship with people or religious relationship with God, just religion. And he put wisdom higher than that. So there is relationship with God, but you see, he said he put wisdom before a relationship with God, because if you do not know how to communicate with God, then you will only communicate with him in error. If I don't have wisdom, I will not have the potential to grasp God. For example, wisdom in this case, self-education, is more important than just religious faith in God. Why? Because if I have understanding of God's ways and how to communicate with him, then I will definitely build a relationship with him faster, and I will be able to understand him faster and better. But if I do not have the understanding of how to deal with God, how to behave with him, then the same way the Buddhists and Krishnites, they have zeal for God, and or Muslim people, they have it, but they don't know the ways of how to communicate with God, how to build relationship with him. They still have the zeal, but this zeal brings them to things that they shouldn't be doing, committing suicide and doing many different things that they could only think of, because they have the zeal without understanding. And many of us, we do the same thing. We run to the church, we attend services just to experience the presence of God or to show people that you are religious. But at the same time, you're not building God inside of yourself. You don't get to know his ways. You don't get to know his nature. You don't build him inside of yourself. So you come here empty and you leave the church empty, and then you come back to church again empty and you leave it again empty. And then you were wondering why there is no connection, why is there no progress or development or prosperity? How come I'm not becoming like Pastor Sunday? Because after the service, when Pastor Sunday hears something, oh, this is the material I have to work on it. So he goes home, he closes him in the study room, and he's studying. He's filled with the knowledge, and then he knows how to interact with God, because now he has received knowledge and understanding of how to interact with him. The same thing was written about Israel. The children of Israel knew God's miracles, but they didn't know his ways. And that's why, as long as God gave miracles, he did miracles, he did good things, they were happy. Oh God, you're the best, you're the most wonderful one. But as soon as problems start, when they leave, like you leave church and there are problems and challenges, the Israelites, they would be confused. They didn't know how God would react and how God would behave in such a situation. They didn't they didn't know that. So they were happy about his miracles, which was instinct. They were reacting at the things he was doing, but they did not instill his ways inside of them. So when the bad situation happened with them, they didn't know what to do. Only Moses knew his ways from the inside. He had his word inside of him. So this is how important to build up his ways inside of you. The wisdom of God is more important than just religious manipulations. It's like in this proverb of Jesus about a good Samaritan, when the priest passed by the person in need. Why? Because he was going to church. He was supposed to preach or something. I don't know, just to minister. And then there was a Levite who was going to church to be in praise and worship or something. But there was somebody else walking, who knew how to show God's ways, whereas the ministers of God didn't know how to show God's ways. Because God would have stopped and served the person and would have not gone to the church, because it's more important for this person to see the living Christ. It's like when we go to the bus or the subway or something, and you don't even see people because you're so spiritual and you're praying or something. And there are people who are going to hell. Maybe tomorrow they'll be dead, and they've never seen God. And you are supposed to have shown God to them. And that's how you would have known that you are a Christian. And you think, I went to church, I pleased God. God, I attend your church. Why are you not helping me? You're like, I don't know. I'm so it sounds stupid, I'm sorry, but it's like you're carrying your 70 kgs around to and fro. No point. God doesn't need this stupidity. He needs you to be filled with his ways. If the Son of God himself had to be filled with his wisdom, with his ways, then of course we have to do that as well. And then everything else will come. And then you'll have the stature, and then you'll have favor with God and with man. You see what I mean? Give praises to God. And to be increasing wisdom means to be conscious. It's the highest level of being conscious. Next, levels of the depth of sleep and awakening. It is well known and accepted that there are different levels of depth of sleep, but no one realizes that there is also different levels of awakening that correspond to how much the person is awakened in the different parts of his life, and how it influences his perception of the world. And the higher the level of your alertness, then the more precise will your vision be, the vision of reality. When we wake up, usually the person thinks that they wake up when they wake up in the morning. So the higher level of alertness, the higher your level of perception of life and reality. The more real all the events are around you, to you. So we don't perceive everything at the same time. For example, right now I can say a word, wisdom. And for somebody, you'll think, oh, Solomon, he was so wise. And this is at a level. Another person at a different level, when they hear the word wisdom, you will think, yeah, I know what it is. You have to read a lot of books. The third person say, wisdom? Oh, that's what I'm moving in right now. Like I'm moving in this direction, the direction of I'm raising myself in wisdom, I'm developing myself in wisdom. And the first two don't even know that wisdom is the value and in yourself. It is the ability to acquire knowledge and also to turn that knowledge into your behavioral pattern. And some people think that, oh, wisdom is when you have to practice my reactions to different things in the future. But the highest level is when you hear the word wisdom, and then you know that I actually have a system, that I work on this systematically every day, and you constantly work on the systems that you use every day, and you turn this system, this wisdom, into a product in the end of the day. For example, using this wisdom, they will start a business or go into politics or start an NGO, or through wisdom they will start projects that will work for 10, 20 years. That would be the level of reflexia. One word, I say one word, and some people think that's what it's about, and some people think no, this is what it's about. So you sitting all the same on the outside, but you perceive the information differently, and you think that's what I meant, and somebody else will think that I meant something else, and you think that this is what they said. No, this is what he said. It is like when we talk about love, men and women, if I speak to a woman and I tell her I love you, the woman thinks she actually feels the warmth right away. She starts smiling right away. And then if you say, so what did you feel? She'll say, oh, what did you say? Well, he said that he loves me, and so it means he will protect me. He will stay with me forever. He will hug me and give me nice things and warmth, and he will understand me, and he will keep me safe. He will provide for me. He will not allow me to suffer. That's what a woman would think. And the man would say, when did I say that? I just said I love you. I didn't say all those things. So the understanding of love for women is really high on this scale of wisdom, and for men it's on 0 level actually, or maybe 1. So when hears I love you, he says, oh, okay, thanks for the information. It doesn't feel different really. It's nice, but that's actually the same as if you didn't say it. So nothing changed. It's the same as if you would say then you're thirsty. If you say, can you bring me some water, at least the guy knows that he needs to bring you some water. If you tell the guy, I love you, he doesn't actually know what to do about it. Same thing as if you said, today is a good day, and he would say, oh yeah, it is a good day. I absolutely agree with you. If you say, I love you, he said, well, okay. Because, yeah, so there's nothing he can do with this information as opposed to any other information. So there is a different scale of understanding, and we think we speak the same language. So the woman perceives things that man says in so much deeper way than the man actually means. So everything depends on the level of alertness. So when we wake up, usually when a person thinks that they wake up at the moment when they wake up in the morning. However, there is a different state of alertness or awakening, which is hard to see and is connected to the high level of efficiency of our mental activity. The scale of level of alertness. The same way as a thermometer shows cold and hot, the same way there is a scale for different levels of sleep and alertness, where 0 is biological sleep. 0 level is the level of absolute unconsciousness or biological sleep. We're not going to read on. I want to ask the whole. We've been going through this for 3 days. I am repeating this on purpose. It's on purpose. Now I want to see. I want to see. I want to hear people explain to me about this scale.
No people again? Only Polina and Sveta, and that's all? Again? Why did it work since the very morning of Monday? It's all in vain. Oh, one new face I see there at the back. Only one person there. And another one appeared there. Oh, it's you again. You responded already. Uh, the scale of consciousness is um, the levels of our alertness. There are 4 levels, with an exclusion of the 0 level when the person is in the womb of a mother. The first level is when a person is driven by the reflexes and instincts, and the second level is when he is suffering the when he lives in the actual real life, and the third level when he is in active consciousness, and the fourth level is the level of reflection when the person is here in the present moment, when he is effective, when he works to change not only oneself but to change the society where he lives. Is there anyone who wants to try? Is there anyone else who wants to try it? 0 level is the when the person is sleeping. Are you a man or a boy? Can you speak louder? Even a girl was speaking louder than you. At the 0 level, oh, this is now a better case. Uh, Well, the 0 level, when a person sleeps and he doesn't realize what he's doing. The first level is the level of reflexes and instincts. Reflexes and instincts. These words are very similar. And it appears that on this very level person lives on the basis of the knowledge stored in subconsciousness, and when the flesh uh, is above, and when there are instincts of self-preservation and other instincts which work, he is programmed for some certain actions, and he just does this program automatically. And the second level is it being in actual reality when the person has feeling about the things around and why they happen, and how you can respond to them, not on the level of only instincts, but he starts to feel them, to think of them. This is just my personal opinion. The second level is a bit incoherent for me. So on the second level is all about feelings. He just experiences that event and just has some emotions about it. Let's go on. Explain next. The third level is when a person uses active consciousness, when he understands everything, who he is. This is like more intellectual level, where he is, he sees the actual reality, and if he's a believer, he knows that he's a Christian and he has a calling and he can fulfill it. And he takes some area of activity, sets a goal and tries to achieve or goes to this goal, and just does some steps. So I believe this is all about the third level. And what about the fourth level? The fourth level is when a person processes all the information of his life. He always asks the question, why it happened, and then can receive the answer why it happened. And then he can differentiate whether he would use this information or not. And then he creates a plan, and then goes step by step according to the plan. And he has this plan of action in 5 or 10 years ahead. So there is another person, Sasha, at the back of you, who wants to answer. So 0 level is clear, I believe. The first level is the level when the person is driven by instincts. It's similar to an animal. It's like a biomass. And the second level is feelings, emotions. They are more feelings, and the person just experiences these feelings, but he experiences these feelings subconsciously. For example, a person can marry someone, so the person can have a lot of feelings, joy, etc. Yeah, I love him, he loves me, we will have children, but he's not aware of what it is all about. Children. To have children is to have responsibility, and at this very level the person does not understand that it is responsibility. If we have children, then consequently we will have such problems, etc. The person just feels some things, has some emotions and feelings about the situations. So on this very level, people don't analyze, live by emotions and feelings. And the third level, when the person is aware of the events and analyzes them, and on this stage, a person can get stuck, and the person doesn't apply any efforts to do something. And the fourth level is the highest level, when the person is aware of all events, analyzes, makes conclusions, and does actions. Is there any other person else who wants to try to explain? Please pass the microphone there, to the left. Please hurry up. We're lack of time. I would like to say about the gratitude. So the person on the level of the reflexes, if you did something good to this person, he doesn't say even thank you. He receives it as if it is something usual. Yeah, it's everywhere around. Yeah, this person never thinks of saying at least thank you. This second level, when the person can smile because he is pleased with something and then went away. He noticed you, told you thank you, and went away. Oh, this is the right example. So because he was pleased with something you did. The third level is about the person who is pleased with the event. That he understands that you did something good to him, that you applied some effort, shared some money, and tomorrow or the day after tomorrow he will recall what you have done, and then he understands that you sacrifice with something. He analyzes, ponders over these facts. Then in a month when he meets you, he will always thank you again. This is the third level of active consciousness. And the fourth level, when there are people who see something and they understand that this is so important to see this and I have to live this way of life. So Andrew, you are great. You just you saved all the men here in the hall. Pass the microphone to another person. My name is Victor Rivuta. While I was listening to Pastor Sunday, while he was explaining these levels, it was so funny to listen to them because many people are listening to the words now, and it's hard to really comprehend them. So I imagine that there is a chick running over the yard, and everyone can imagine this. The first level is about these chicks who are running around the yard and crying, "There is a war in Ukraine, war in Ukraine." Then they run to the cash machine and withdraw the money very fast because it's dangerous in the country. Then on the second level, people say, "Oh, it is war in the country. Then we have to do something. We have to hurry somewhere." They don't know where to run, why to run, but it's important to run somewhere. And the third level is the level of the egg, or of a chick who asks, "Oh, where is the war? With whom do we fight, and why it happened?" And they said a lot of questions and lies. And the fourth level is all about the egg or chick who many years ago knew that the war will be, and what it can drive to, how it will end. And by the moment it happened, they were ready. They prepared everything, documents, other things, etc. And thanks to their analytical abilities, they were fully ready because they could predict it. Good of you. Well done. There is another person who wants to explain. This is the last one. Let us start with zero level. Zero level is biological sleep or unconsciousness, when our active consciousness is sleeping and our unconsciousness works. And on this very level, people can have dreams and feel something. And if we can awake him on this very level, as you said, Pastor. On the first level, a person doesn't sleep physically but does everything on autopilot, not thinking of what he's doing. This is the level of instincts. This is the strive to please and to meet own basic needs, just to choose something or eat. The second level is the direct feeling of the situation. Is the life of a copycat. People throw or go by the stream and drift in life. They do everything like others do. It doesn't create anything new. The person of such a person is lived by the principle I feel because I want. So, and the opinion of this person is based on the opinion of others. So I'm rejoicing and I'm enjoying listening to you. I really do understand that you grasp what I've said. The third level is when the consciousness and when the person becomes a person. Do you see the keyword? A man becomes a personality only at this very level. Some other people miss this, but he said it. Thank you, good guy. And this level is not about instincts and reflexes, but it's about goals and achieving the goals. This is awesome. This is a good interpretation. Well done. A person always sets questions. Does he correspond with the goals set? Yeah, this is also a keyword. There are requests, there are questions which he sets. Good of you. And does he correspond with the purpose, and does he go in a right direction? You see the aspiration or the endeavor. The fourth level is the level of reflection, and the person is able to count the steps far ahead, many years ahead in advance. And he doesn't only analyze own actions, but also the consequences, the outcomes of such actions. Oh, glory be to God for all this. I do understand that people comprehended everything, and maybe I do my work not in vain. On this very level, there is strategic analytical thinking realized. You are a good boy. Uh, Thanks a million. So you made a very profound note. So let us keep next. On what the effectiveness of a personality depends. The effectiveness of a personality on the land depends on how much his soul is active. And the effectiveness of the person depends also on the how much his consciousness is active and how much he can manage the situation around, and how much he is aware of the surrounding and can contact with it. And if efficiency of interaction of the personality and reality it surrounds depends on the level his soul is developed. Now, next question to the whole: why is the efficiency of a person depends on the activity or alertness, vigility of his consciousness? What's the connection between performance, the productivity of the performance, or how is it connected? What's the connection between efficiency and alertness? Efficiency is the result of the goal, and if efficiency is the measure of the result from the goal. If you achieve the goal, then it is effective. Yulia, you're so clever. Good of you. A person can set a goal only when, oh, you have a golden goal, golden head. Yeah. He can achieve the goal only when he can set some goals, because a person without consciousness cannot set goals. Setting questions is also an index that the person can think. And we can think only when we are vigil. That's why effectiveness fully depends on the alertness of a person. Oh, good girl, isn't it? The consciousness sets the goals, and the consciousness is opened when the person is active and his consciousness is active. But when the consciousness set the goal, then subconsciousness can retrieve all the resources for this goal. And if the consciousness doesn't set the goals, then subconsciousness will not work and the person will not become effective. Efficiency depends on the activeness of the mind. Because if our consciousness is not active, then subconsciousness will do everything for the consciousness not to achieve any result. Here is our beloved brother at the back. He raises the hand to answer once again. So let's listen to him and then give the microphone to others. Efficiency is all about the result, and result depends on the comprehension of the actions you do. This is awesome. He got to the target. Effectiveness is all about the result, and result depends on the comprehension and the purposefulness of the action, and it happens only on the level of active consciousness. So there are other hands risen. Can you speak louder, please? And first of all, I would like to say why efficiency depends on the activeness of the consciousness. Our soul is active when it develops in multifaceted directions, and only then we can have some concrete result. I'm really very sorry, but I want to give you time to think. Take your time. And there are other people there, and give the microphone to that person. If we address to the definition of efficiency, efficiency is the quantity of right actions for a definite time period. For a person to become maximum effective, the person must clearly understand which actions to be done, and for this you have to be alert. Secondly, you have to choose for yourself a certain time period and think which result he can gain through this time. The efficiency of the businessman can depend on the amount of money he can earn per hour. For example, if today he can earn $10 for an hour and by doing some certain things, if a person wants to earn more, then a person should understand that by doing the same things which he is doing now, he will never become more prosper. He will same the same result. That's why if the person wants to be more effective, he should understand which things should be done and how can he understand this. He can understand it through consciousness. So firstly, you have to understand which things you want to do. Secondly, which things to do, but to do in another way. And thirdly, you have to understand those things you have to avoid so that you will become more efficient. This is very well, not bad. Let's go on reading. The most important component of a personality. The most important component of a personality is the soul. Due to the soul, a person can function, exist efficiently on the earth. But the soul mustn't just exist. The main part of the soul, the majority of people, the souls are existing in them. And some people even don't even guess that they have the soul. And the main part of the soul is consciousness. It should be in active phase, in the vigil state. Therefore, you have to develop it. Proverbs 19:8. He that gets wisdom loves his own soul. So you have to have active mind and active. The one who has active consciousness, he loves his own life. The one who isn't in active consciousness, he doesn't love oneself and is not able to love anyone else. Let's go on. Genesis 2:7. And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. Formation of consciousness has its foundation in the Bible, where philosophers and psychologists cannot recognize it and differentiate it. In the phrase, and man became a living soul, is hidden the beginning, the basis of consciousness and active consciousness. Three components of a man. First, God created the human body from the dust of the ground. Let us stop here for a while. I want to address a question. What general lesson can you take out of Genesis 2:7? Can you show that quote from the Bible, Genesis 2:7? And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. What's the gist of this quote within the scope of our fast? First of all, God made a man, and he's not a person yet. And when even God breathed life into the person, it's not a man yet at all. By this, he gave us a flesh and a soul. It's not a personality yet. And when a person became a living soul, only then we are able to live a conscious life. This is all about active consciousness. And this is the key component of the person. It's not yet active consciousness, but it's what we should work on to become and live in active consciousness. Now, the wife of Pastor Sunday wants to speak. I just want to add a little bit. When the Lord formed a man, it's God who did something. We didn't do anything. And when He breathed into us the breath of life, we didn't do anything yet. And only when we became a living soul, we started to and we're able to do something whereas with ourselves. This is what I wanted to add. There was a man who wanted to say something. There is another person who wanted to speak, and then go there and then there. This is clear when a person became a flesh. When is this clear? This is really clear. So when a man was made of dust, then the Lord breathed life into him. It's like a resuscitation. When the person is lying on a bed and he's just lying, having a flesh, but doesn't have life, soul. And I was meditating on this place and understood that. Can you imagine what a huge work had to be done for Adam to give the names to each animal on the earth? It implies that how well developed he became, that he was capable to give names to every animal. I believe that a stupid or silly man cannot do this. The main lesson we can learn from this place, from scripture, I would express like this: a man became a man only when he was in consciousness, when he acquired consciousness. A man is not a man if he or she is not in consciousness. Good girl. Lisa, you have said this very good, but I do want to explain what she said. Pay attention to Genesis 2:7. And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground. So this is one level. And breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. Also the same level. We say comma, 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 and then dash. And then see what is happening then. Sensation, fantastics, awesome. Look what is happening then. The very last phrase in this very verse, to what is everything driven here? The outcome we were waiting for. When God created the flesh, he didn't say, and the man became. When the Lord breathed life into a man, it's not the result we were waiting for yet. He didn't become a man yet. But look at the very last part of the sentence. And a man became a living soul. This is what we were waiting, and he became a living soul. This is what the person says. 1 plus 1 is not a result yet. Plus is not result yet. 1 is not result yet. When the mark equal goes after, when equal to, our result is number 2. There is no man if he hasn't become a conscious man. When he becomes a conscious man, then only then he is a true man. Then he can bear children. But actually, it's not what God was expecting, and it's not the purpose of his creation. Give a microphone to someone. This is exactly what I wanted to say. The flesh doesn't mean anything. A spirit cannot do anything, but flesh plus spirit is equal to a live soul. And a soul is a harmony and a combination of willpower and mind. And then a live and conscious man comes out with emotions and the willpower. I see a lot of hands there. Yeah. It turns out that everything Pastor Bossi has said, that our general activity, our principal focus, premier focus, is establishing our souls.
And the man formed God formed man, a vessel. So then he breathed life, and so he started breathing and seeing. But when he became a living soul, he now was different from an animal. He was able to speak, and God did not give us the spirit for the spirit to give something on this earth. We received a soul to do something on this earth. That's why we developed the soul. As Pastor Bosa said, God gave a body to a human being, and the body was perfect, and the spirit was perfect. So God, did His work perfect, and now we have the responsibility to work on our soul in order to make it perfect. When God created man, formed man, flesh is not a human being yet. Flesh and the spirit is only potentially a man. And what we were speaking about, a child is not really a personality yet, it's just a potential personality. So you become a personality when you have a developed soul, because only soul can interact with the world. We can see that God created man, and God, breathed into man, but it is man who became a living soul. So this of so in other words, a human being did not make itself. So God worked on man. This is brilliant, brilliant. So man himself now has gotten an opportunity to work on himself, to create himself. Wonderful. So we need her to stand up while she's standing. Okay, we have the spirit and we have body. So just as much as our soul is vigilant, that's how much we are personality. Otherwise, we're a biomass. Thank you. This scripture shows us the process of creating a man, and which is 3 phases. The first 2 phases, what is the mistake of psychologists, is that they only saw the first 2 phases and they did not see the third one. When the man becomes a living soul, they did not interpret it as the final stage of forming a man, but just as a result. That's it. You have a living soul. That's it. Yeah, true, true. Okay.
That phrase, and he breathed into man the breath of life, and man became that phrase became a living soul. It occurred to me that now that I am born again, made alive, the only way I can function alive is when I am using my consciousness.
Excellent.
So that's really has talked to me since that night. So all these years I've been born again, I've been going to church and doing several activities. I don't know, it appears I've been functioning dead.
Yes.
Even though I've been made alive.
Yes.
So that phrase talked to me until I am functioning consciously. I am not.
Excellent. Он говорит, что для меня это англичане один из наших, что я понял, что несмотря на то, что когда мы каемся в своих грехах, Иисус приходит в нашу жизнь и оживляет наш дух. И теперь ожидает, чтобы мы начали жить осознанно. Все делать осознанно. И что несмотря на то, что я с 20 лишним уже верующий, но то, что я не делал все осознанно, в осознанности, и я не пребывал в осознании, я все оставался мертвым. Только мой дух спасся. Но я оставался мертвым. И я не мог принести потому пользу Царства Божьего. Все, дальше читаем.
Next.
Propose
Okay, we're passing this one. It's clear. This one is clear too. So next one. Okay, let's read this one. Lack of awareness. Consciousness is divided into two parts: the active consciousness and subconsciousness. Unfortunately, many of us do not live in our conscious mind, and therefore our level of consciousness is quite low. And it means that we walk on earth, live, but do not think deep. We do not analyze what is happening. Oh, Alec is reading very well today. Thank you. Psalm 82:5. They know not, neither will they understand. They walk on in darkness. Definition of consciousness, active consciousness. Active consciousness is the ability. Okay, you need to go back to the scripture that you read for us. Psalm 82:5. Okay, they did not read all the verses. You should have written the whole, many of them. They say they know not. Because they're not in consciousness, they're not walking in consciousness. They don't know how to create things. They don't know everything. So they know not. They understand. They neither will they understand. What is the difference between knowing and understanding? Knowing means to know, let's say, ways. To understand means to make it your lifestyle or your behavioral pattern. So they know not, neither will they understand, and therefore they walk in darkness. And there they go on to write that because of it, all the foundations of the earth tremble. All the disasters on earth, all the problems on earth, the famine and deaths and wars happen because people who are created by the image and likeness of God, who are supposed to bring the understanding and consciousness of his ways, do not understand and do not know. And because of the lack of their knowledge, because people who sleep while walking, they do not know, neither understand. Maybe if they knew, maybe if they walked in consciousness, maybe they would have brought peace where there is war. Maybe they would have brought peace where there is a conflict. Maybe they would have fulfilled their calling. If each of them knew and functioned in their calling, maybe there would have been peace, and maybe the foundations of the earth would not have trembled. But because they know not, neither understand, the foundations of the earth tremble. When people do not walk in consciousness, because he gave us earth to dominate, to rule, to manage. And when we do not walk in consciousness, we lose the control. We do not take our place. We do not do what we are responsible for, and everything trembles. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. Let's go on. The definition of consciousness, active consciousness. Active consciousness is the ability to be aware of the reality around you and understand how to act and determine your behavior. Some synonyms of active consciousness are the following: deliberation, intention, awareness, vigilance, understanding, consciousness. Proverbs 16:9 says, "A man's heart devises his way." You see, a man's heart devises his way. This is how we are created to function. Our hearts, every time when you listen to your heart, it is your consciousness in general or subconsciousness. But when, as it says that the heart devises, so your heart is active, it devises, it thinks. So the heart is your subconsciousness. So the process of your heart's work is active consciousness. When your heart devises, then you will see clearly what to do. And what do? We just read or study at school. We think that the biological heart, when we read this scripture, we think it's just about the biological heart. No, every time you read the Bible and you see that the Bible talks about the heart, it's about your consciousness. To keep your heart means do not lose your consciousness. Do not switch off. Be aware. Be vigilant. Be on. I mean, be here and now. Next. The scale of consciousness or levels of consciousness. We've seen this already. Next one. And the next one. Next one. Who can explain to me and give me examples about what reflexes, instincts, and stimuluses are? Give me examples of what is instinct or reflexes. So just take one. You don't need to take them all. Give me an example. I will tell you how they work with me, my personal example. Maybe you can't see it on me, but I really like to eat. You can't tell it by looking at me. Yeah, I eat all the time, whether I'm hungry or not. But when I fast, I am even more hungry. I want to eat. And it's sad because for me, fast is really hard. It's like how I, you know, so where do you see the the reflexes or instincts? I want to eat, I do it. That's the instinct, that's the reflex. If I tell myself I am going to only eat vegetables, but I eat vegetables more than I ate before, because if I want to eat, I go and do it. I want to do it, I go and do it. I do not have the limitations or understanding. This is actually fast. You shouldn't be eating all the time, even if you decided to eat only vegetables. So I don't ask myself, do I need it? If I want to sleep, I just go and sleep. So it's on the level of what? On the level of instincts. It's the level of instincts that dominates above all. And I really have too many of them, the animal instincts. On my own example, I will tell you how my instincts worked. When I was at school, everybody was studying, then I was studying. When I went to apply to the university, I don't know any specialty. I didn't know what faculty to choose, what major to choose. I just read the list and I chose what everybody else chose. And just because because I had to study, because I had to get a higher education, not because I wanted to. So just did what everybody else did. Reflexes is like, if you know the dog of Pavlova, there are animal instincts, and human beings also have animal instincts, and the most important is self-preservation and self-multiplication, self-reproduction. So I wrote down for myself, if I want to achieve something, what do I need to do? What are the stimuluses or things that would inspire me to do it? I know that I will change, and I will produce something that will help thousands of people to change. So that's a good thing to stimulate me. I think also when people get a stimulus from outward, and that's when you live by stimuluses, because you do not produce something to to act from the inside of you. No, it's something that comes from the outside that makes you act, and you cannot come up with things to stimulate action in your life. Well, all these definitions can be seen on the example of public speaking. The first instinct of every person in the very beginning is fear. People fear public speaking, and obviously reflex is development of certain actions of a person. And if a person is speaking publicly, then after a certain number of speeches, the fear goes away, because the person gets used to this and obviously develops a reflex, knowing that it's not scary, and the stimulus is like an encouragement that is there to help the person to do it better and with higher quality. What I understand is that this level is more of a animal level, when a person's brains do not dominate, when your emotions and feelings dominate, and some situations, critical situations happen, or you get irritated, or there is a conflict, and instead of dominating as a Homo sapiens, you release your emotions, and this is that level when your instincts of self-preservation dominate. The instinct when you are trying to suppress somebody, that's an animal instinct. The reflexes, instincts, and stimuluses is work on the level of the flesh of people. Like on this picture on the screen, we see now that if you knock somebody's knee, there will be a reflex. The foot will go up. Or there is another reflex when we blink with our eyes, or something. If you blow something on the eye, your eye will blink. So this is the instinct of self-preservation. So self-preservation is when we're afraid to go outside at night when it's dark. The instinct of self reproduction is when you get married and you obviously have children. So both of them is the flash, level of the flash. Pastor asked for examples, and I want to speak about reflexes. Reflexes is the program that is in people that works irrespective of the level of consciousness at certain conditions. Let's talk about a newborn baby. If you take a baby with their feet down and their hands down, and you push the baby a little bit toward, ahead, the baby starts crawling. So, doing the corresponding movements. So that's a reflex. Whenever there is an outward irritative factor, you always have a reaction. So that's a reflex. You always have a certain reaction. An instinct is something that moves you in life and something that helps you to make certain decisions. The foundation for your decisions, you live by instincts. And stimulus, as one of our brothers mentioned, is is a stimulus that stimulates you from the outside, not from the inside of you, to do things. Okay, we have nobody else who would like to say something, do we? In Corinthians, Apostle Paul is writing about himself. They upset us, but we rejoice. So he overcame his fleshly reaction, and he can say that if they upset us, we rejoice. They persecute us. They persecute us, and we're still happy. So he lived according to the word, and he was not living according to reflexes and instincts. I wanted to add that there are conditioned and unconditional reflexes, and the conditioned reflexes are the ones that you acquired. You were not born with them. I'd like to say something about instincts. Instinct is when I want something, let's say I want some sexual, relationship with somebody. I just go ahead and do it, and I get pregnant. I don't even know why I get pregnant. Why am I ready to have a child? I'm going to have the child, but I don't know. I don't have any plans for the child's future. Am I even ready to handle a child? How this child is going to influence other people in the future, will it be positive or negative influence? So this is an instinct, an animal instinct, in my opinion. I imagine life by instincts as a life of a typical Ukrainian. It is focused on what to eat and where to earn to survive, and usually you spend time at home in the kitchen with children and at work and again. So you have this small world, and you don't want to go out of the limits of your own eye, and whatever you're interested in, that's what you do. And most of the time such a person doesn't participate in the life of society. He's not interested, and he doesn't take care of others and only thinks about him or herself, and that's why they can step over the bodies of other people, do whatever is profitable to them, and not minding others. And you could say that all people in Ukraine live in this closed world. And why the foundations of the earth tremble? Because people do not think about the most important, about what they should do and what their destiny is. They just want to eat, to earn, to rest, and nothing else interests them. And they don't have dominion of the earth because they don't take responsibility of the earth. And this scripture says, I said my in my heart. And God tried them. God created them and sent them a problem so they could become um, a true personality. So if you are on your own, you live as animal. So this is what the Bible says. It's Ecclesiastes 3:18. It's our natural state of homeostasis. It is the same as being an animal. Ecclesiastes 3:18. It's the animal nature. So you should become a man. You should always pull yourself out of your subconsciousness and be in consciousness and set goals. Why did you pass by? Okay, anyway. Next, second level. Now we're going to pass this one. Let's read this one. Understanding of one's actions. The second level of consciousness is okay, now let's move on. And move on. And on. Definition of consciousness. This consciousness is the state of the psychological life of a person that is subjective to experiences of the outside world and the life of the individual himself, and also the accountability of this life. So these definitions shows that you not only experience reality, but you also analyze it. You have impressions about your reality. You have conclusions, having lived through your reality. You assess what you experience. You analyze yourself, and you are aware of the actions and everything that happens around you. So what is consciousness? Consciousness is what actually differs people from animals and helps to understand and realize our own actions and to know your inner and outward world. Ecclesiastes 11:13. And I have put my heart to research and try through wisdom everything that is happening under heaven. And God gave this hard work to the sons of men so they would exercise themselves in it. So he says, I have put my mind, in the English Bible says, I have put my mind to study and explore by wisdom all. To explore by wisdom all. Say, explore by wisdom all. That is done under the heavens. And now listen to the conclusion. Why it says what it says. Ecclesiastes continues to say, what a heavy burden. So everything he describes it as a heavy burden that God has laid on the sons of men, so on all mankind, so that people would exercise only in this thing. What is the thing? To explore everything by wisdom. God gave the earth under our dominion and power, and only through wisdom, by wisdom, we can understand it and explore it and manage it and research it and have dominion. So God wants us to be effective in exploring the earth, using the earth, having dominion over the earth. So uh, exploiting for his glory. And this is our task. This is why God blesses believers and unbelievers who do this, who have dominion over the earth. You don't have to be a Christian, you don't have to be a believer. If you're a human being, you have to manage the earth by wisdom, and God is going to bless you in what you're doing. Next, stages of forming a consciousness. From birth to adulthood, there are 5 stages of development of children. From 0 to 1 years old is the awakened consciousness. From 1 to 3 years old is objective consciousness. From 3 to 9, individual consciousness. Awakened consciousness means the child is alive, not dead, like alive. But objective consciousness from 1 to 3 years old, it's when the child learns, oh, this is a fork, this is a spoon, this is my dad, this is my mom, and so on. From 3 to 9, individual consciousness. He starts to learn that Vaisa is different from Natalia and so on. From 9 to 16 years old, collective consciousness, that's school. We want to be like your friends and your siblings and or colleagues or mates. You want to be associated with people around like who are like you. From 16 to 22 years old is higher reflection, like reflexive social consciousness. This is the time when you change, you transform. So let's say from 16 years old, you have the responsibility to wake up and become and have active, awakened, alert, vigilant consciousness. So you have time between 16 and 22 years old to build your system of values and set goals for your whole life, what you're going to strive to, ask questions, receive answers, where am I here, where am I going, and then you start living according to your calling. The 4th level of consciousness is reflection. Okay, we have spoken about it. Next one. Let's just read the scripture. Proverbs 24:32. And I have looked around and I've seen and I have looked and received a lesson. So, conclusions. Let's look at Proverbs 24:32. And I have looked and I have seen with my heart. So I applied my heart. So he actually used his heart, which is his consciousness, to see. And then it's written, and I looked. So he looked again. And today and yesterday we talked about that it's not enough to see, to look, you have to see. So, and I looked, he applied his heart, and then what he observed and learned a lesson. So you kind of, it's a bit different in the English version, but in Russian version it says, I looked, I applied my heart, and then he looked again, and then he received the lesson. So when you start looking with your alive consciousness, you will see something deeper, you understand something more, you will receive something. Next.
Everything is for better. Everything a person sees, hears, and whatever happens with him becomes a material for his improvement. A person who is in consciousness sees more than than he perceives, and whatever he hears or sees becomes a lesson for him. But for this, you have to become in and be in consciousness, and so on and so forth. So this becomes the material to process the information and analyzation. This is such an awesome life. And become the lessons to self-establish, to reach the goals, to build up a constructive steps where he goes. Therefore, a person at this level of consciousness does not react emotionally to any circumstances. This is on the level of reflection, and all things work together for his good. Example of Pastor Sunday. Pastor Sunday is constantly learning and improving himself. He believes that observation is the basis of his education, i.e., pastor learns watching or listening, along with reading books. Reflection structure. The first level of reflection, self-knowledge, self-observation, knowledge of oneself, one's position and abilities. I haven't mentioned this yet. The first level of reflection is when a person starts from himself, starts to self-educate. The person on the level of reflection tries to devise himself, to research himself. And that's why he does it very deliberately, thoroughly. That's why to study 3 or 4 hours, it's normal. It's also about self-observation. These persons observe, they look at the situation from a side, like observing themselves. If you become a true personality, you shouldn't be focusing on yourself and be driven by yourself. 80% of time you have to be focused on others and on your goals, and only 20% you have to dedicate to yourself, just to learn yourself better, to explore yourself better, for you could manage yourself so that you will be able to achieve the goal you set. Some people think of themselves too much, too long, and it is called idolatry. But we have to think of ourselves to learn more resources in us and then to apply them to reach our goals. Self-observation, self-knowledge, one's position and abilities is all about the first level of reflection. And the second level of reflection is emotional level, when you can give adequate assessment to your emotional state, when you can predict your emotional response to the situation. You know your situation, you can manage your situation, you can handle your feelings. They don't manage you, they don't drive you. You're not a slave of your emotions. And moreover, you can take your emotion. For example, if I'm speaking to you now, for example, many people who are speaking, they are speaking smoothly. How he's reading the slides. He has the emotions, but while reading, he doesn't apply them. This is the level of biomass. And he has the emotion, and he knows that he has to underscore something. He sees some commas or other signs, and by this he should manage his emotions. He should stress on some words, highlight something. So emotions, some Emotions appear when reflexes request them. And a conscious person uses emotions to enhance some message, to enforce some word, and you want to pay special attention to what you want to say. You want to underscore what you're saying because you have some definite goal for people to grasp what you want to say, to help your goal. Many people use their emotions. For example, they shout at their children, so they waste their children just to respond to some stimulus reflexes. However, you have to use their emotions to help yourself to deliver the information you want straightly to the person. Some people are testifying on the stage, not moving, standing still. They are afraid of moving a handle or leg. But if you do want to enhance some message, you have to use your gestures, emotions, hands or legs. They're used to still stand still, and they fear to raise their hand. There should be some external stimulus to for them to use their emotions. However, I use all emotions uh, i- to enforce the message what I deliver because I want to achieve the purpose which I set. Is this too complicated? This is all about the second level, about the person who lives in the consciousness. Of course, you have to be in active consciousness all the time. Sometimes we're speaking something, but we don't switch on our consciousness because our mouth just opens and says something. But at this very level, your consciousness should work. So this is the second level about this assessment. The third level of a reflection is the development of motivation, setting goals, and methods of self-transformation according to the goals you set. And the fourth level of reflection is strong-willed efforts to achieve the goals, self-regulation and self-control. It's control of the situation, of events, information, and so on and so forth. Let's go on reading. The kinds and types of reflection. Situational reflection acts as a motivation and self-assessment, providing a direct involvement of the subject in the situation, understanding of its elements, the analysis of what is happening. It includes the subject's ability to relate to the subject's own actions and to coordinate and monitor the activities of members in accordance with changing conditions. Next type, retrospective reflection, used to analyze the already completed activities and the events that occurred in the past. And prospective reflection, so it doesn't happen on the level of random actions. It's not accidental. It's when the person sets the goals him or herself and he thinks like this. Prospective reflection includes reflections on forthcoming activities, planning, selection of the most effective ways to of its implementation as well as prediction of its possible results. Cool, I think. I see your reaction. You start to like what I'm saying. You're keen on what I'm saying. For this transition, a person doesn't need to go to the state of consciousness. Conversely, a person must constantly dwell in active consciousness, here and now, in motion, surrounded by the other people. It's not a special activity for several hours a day. It's a lifestyle, a way of thinking. It's not as it's not a specific activity for several hours a day. It's just a way of thinking. So some Eastern people, Asian people, use meditation, such practice like meditation. They want to drift somewhere with their thoughts out, and it doesn't refer to us, to Christians. We are against such meditation practices because people go far from the reality and they dream, and they go far to the space and come to the influence of dark forces and demons. But when we are thinking, we have to think of only our goals, pictures, some accuracy, the things we want to get. We don't leave, we don't abandon the reality. We create reality in our heads through the things we receive through five senses, sense organs. In meditation practices, we are flying somewhere out, but in reality, we create the pictures which we want to gain and then just transfer them to reality. Do you see the difference? Let's go on. The importance of the focus. Despite the fact that God gave a man a soul and consciousness that emerge from contact of God's spirit and body, a person needs to work on himself to form and develop his concentration. This process depends on the ability to keep the focus. Therefore, either man will live unconsciously, automatically, subconsciously, or he will live in the consciousness, and every action of this man will be exposed to analysis and reflection. Proverbs 13:16. Every prudent man deals with knowledge. It's written, every prudent man deals with knowledge. Knowledge. If he is prudent. Everywhere around in Bible you can see such places. Dormant. Unfortunately, the majority of our people live on the first or maximum second level of consciousness, i.e., most of us are constantly in a sleeping state. It happens because we didn't work on the development of our soul, our mind, to the fourth level of consciousness. Men and levels of consciousness. Behavior of a human differs on each level of consciousness. If somebody makes a compliment to a person who is at the level of instincts, first level, he becomes happy. If he is corrected, he begins to feel sad or cry. If a man who lives on a level of instincts is intimidated, he will start to have fear, so begins to fear. He's afraid to speak in public because he's afraid of what other people will think of them. Exodus 14, and Moses said unto the Lord, O my Lord, I am not eloquent, neither heretofore nor since thou hast spoken unto the servants, but I am slow of speech and of a slow tongue. The person on the second level of consciousness, the level of direct experience of reality, a person copies the behavior and actions of other people around. For instance, if a person at this level of consciousness gets into bad environment, he also starts behave badly. If all people around this person shouts particular slogan, he will do the same. He cannot oppose the environment because he feels what is happening around and gets under the influence of the circumstances. So did you grasp? The person on the third level of consciousness, the third level of active consciousness, a person can express own opinion, which can contradict the opinion of others. He can argument and stand on own opinion. The person on this level can live by the principle, values, and outlook he has, and he does really understands what he's doing and can answer for his words. Proverbs 14:8. The wisdom of the prudent is to understand his way. This is the wisdom is all about. So the wisdom of the prudent is to understand his ways, to know what to do. You can explain each step of yours, of your life. A person on the fourth level of consciousness, at the level of reflection, person first of all analyzes oneself, analyzes other people, correlates the received data, makes conclusions, which later uses in practical life. He can ask himself a question: what are the motives of other people, and then can get an answer. He can give a full assessment of what is happening and identify therefore his position. A need in zero level of consciousness. It is important to understand that God does not accidentally allow a person to go through the initial levels of consciousness. Zero level, when a person is asleep, is similar to a moment when a person is in the womb and cannot remember anything, doesn't understand, and is justified, because a man who is in the womb of the mother needs care of the mother. Therefore, when a person is sleeping in the deep sleep, then the deeper the sleep is, and the more useful it is. If the person sleeps deeper, his active consciousness is able to restore. And everything you stored during a day, everything you have heard, perceived, why do we forget some things? Everything you have heard at this preaching, everything you have seen, either consciously or unconsciously, all this information is folded from consciousness, active consciousness, to subconsciousness. And each information is folded in your mind. So if your active consciousness is not switched on, then you have a mishmash in your subconsciousness. And if you have if you don't have deep sleep, also there is a mishmash in your subconsciousness. And you can use your active consciousness later when you are awakened. And sometimes people see dreams because people recollect the information which is deeply in subconsciousness. Or maybe you saw something during a day, or you heard something a day, and you can have dreams about this very information. Or, for example, if you watched some soap operas or some TV programs, then your dreams can be connected with them. So you can recollect even some things from there. And sometimes your spirit, for example, when some people have emotions or experience some feelings, they can recollect some events from the past, or even see the future which can occur. And this information comes up, like emerges on the surface. And that's why sometimes there is this position and change of positions of the folders in our subconsciousness. That's why deep sleep is very important because our consciousness has rest and subconsciousness packs all the information to folders. Let's go on. The need of the first level of consciousness. The first level of consciousness is necessary because God gave us this level. But in perfect understanding, this is the level of children. Even despite the fact the child was born, up to 3 years he will live on the level of instincts. At this age, he is only a biological mass, and this is normal. Such a consciousness of a man is allowed up to 7 years. However, when a man of 20, 30, 50 years old lives on autopilot mechanically, at the level of reflexes and instincts, then he already is a biomass. Such a person is biologically developed, but he is not developed consciously. 1 Corinthians 14:20. Brothers, be not children in understanding. However, in malice be children, but in understanding be men. So, what do we do with our mind? Of course, we switch it off. We are kids, but it is forbidden. It's written, don't be children by your mind, but have understanding of a man. And oftentimes we even don't notice such places in scripture. The need in the second level of consciousness. The second level of consciousness finds the expression in our life. Many people marry because other people say so, or because other people marry or do so. However, marrying and bearing kids is not a calling of everyone. Just people do this because they are on the level of reflexes like animals. Example number 1. Dogs or other animals begin to mate because of the instincts. They do not think where they will live and raise their pups, what values they will invest into them, how they will raise and educate them. We are now speaking about a dog. Does it resemble you anything? Don't you recognize anything in this example? This is like a biomass, similar to biomass. Unfortunately, many people behave the same way at this level, being not in the consciousness. After all, there are people who do not get married because they want to fulfill some plans or have some kind of program for their life, want to achieve a certain goal. They marry just because all classmates are already married or because of fear of loneliness. Example number 2. There are people who got married just because they dreamt to have a veil and a wedding dress. Or, for example, they wanted to bear a kid when they saw a kid nearby. But later, when they marry, such parents don't know what to do with their kids, and they waste their lives just to feed their children. Isn't it truth? This is not the level of active consciousness, it's the level of instincts and emotions. Such people have not yet reached the level of active consciousness, and they may not reach it even living for 70 or 80 years old. You got up, but you are not awoken. Most people in their lives are asleep being awake. They get up in the morning but do not wake up. People live and do something copying activities of the society, however, they don't understand what they are doing. Meanwhile, consciousness is when a person makes decisions, understands and justifies them. This is the level of active consciousness. The need in the third level of consciousness. From 3 to 5 years old, in a child, there should be formed some of awareness at the level of subconscious, understanding that he is a person, but he is not an in active consciousness yet. This is the third level of consciousness. It's when a child starts to understand the reasons of own actions, does some thoughtful actions. The child must understand why he behaves so, but not just accomplish the commands of parents because they command. Sometimes parents even demand that the kids to complete the commands, and by this they form the biomass. The process of independent perception of reality. After 7 years old, children start to comprehend, to realize themselves as people. Awareness of themselves as individuals, which took place in subconscious level to 7 years, was spawned by his parents. But from the age of 7, a child has to perceive his life and his personality by himself. Process of independent reality perception continues up to the age of 16. So at this very stage, the person just folders the information. Active stage of formation of consciousness. Up to 7 years old, children obey their parents in everything. But in 7 years old, he starts obeying selectively. He chooses which orders to fulfill and which not. With onset of puberty at the age of 12 or 14 up to 18 years old, all what he perceived as the truth from parents and teachers, he begins to reconsider. Teenagers in the stage of revolt, which was allowed by God, for men to come through the transition from unconsciousness to consciousness. So these crises of puberty period are made for a person to become sober. This is the stage of transition. At this very stage, person starts to become alert. He asks and develops own abilities. So at the stage of transition to active stage of consciousness. At this stage of formation of consciousness, a person starts to ask questions to oneself. For instance, a person starts to doubt parents' opinions, that he needs to go to the church. He doubts everything he has been taught, and he wants to make sure that words of his parents are true. Up to 18, people need to actively form their views on life. This is the level of active consciousness.
Forming inner values and the core. Many people pass through the stages of maturity only in the biological way, but they do not form values in themselves. And it is before 18 years old that the foundation must be formed, the core must be formed that would be with them their whole lives. However, people cannot form their core because after the stage of rebellion, they get under the influence of the society. For example, instead of being obedient to their mother, the child starts to listen to their friends. And as a result, they keep on living on the level of reflexes and feelings, and they do things that other people do, and they not become a personality. You see the tragedy? People do not use the relevant stages constructively, and they find the easy way out of the situation. They used to copy their mother and father. They copied their friends, and now they copy the society, and so they didn't even make any effort to become somebody. When does the stage of active consciousness begin. After 16, 17 years old, a person starts going through the stage of active consciousness when they begin to do everything consciously, and when they start to give foundation to their actions, they can give arguments and proof to their actions. But many people do not get to the beginning of the stage of consciousness. They do not know how to give arguments and the foundation for their actions. They do not have values and principles. Such people simply change the dependency on their parents' opinion, on the opinion of the television and friends, and so on. Do you see? Okay, next. On the stage of the transition to the to the level of active consciousness, people must start to live in the active consciousness. They must start asking questions to themselves and other people. They must stop living by instincts and experiences and feelings and public opinion. They must make conclusions and have foundation to all their actions. They must analyze, make conclusions. They must create a system of their own values. They must begin to live by the principles that they have chosen for themselves. You see, this is the stage that some of us have never even stepped into.
No maximum do 20 a unas va fshe tu jest eta etapy когда человек останавливается и начинает формировать себя.
This is the stage when a person stops and starts forming themselves, and some people never got to this stage. This is why we just keep on living on our reflexes and emotions, because, you know, somebody looked at me the wrong way and now you have a tragedy of your whole life. Or the weather changed and you don't know how to live anymore. You know, and it's a tragedy. A person that did not make himself or herself, did not build himself or herself, and they even begin to have children and just the same people as themselves. You know, people keep on telling me, we've never seen a good example of a family. Now you see why. How can you see a good example of a family if biomass brings forth biomass? I don't know if you heard about this before. I hear this all the time. I've never. They keep people keep on saying they've never seen an example of a good family. But how? Because everybody is like that. So people should not have even started reproducing then. First you create yourself, you build yourself before you start thinking of a family. Next. A person who is a personality. When a person starts to live on the level of active consciousness, when they have built a core inside themselves and they are aware of their actions that are built on values and principles, then you can say that such a person is a personality and they do not live on the level of animals. So on this stage, you can now start thinking about a family and other things, because now they start having results. They have achieved some goals, and they're on the way to achieving those goals. Forming consciousness is a very important topic. This topic is necessary for every Christian, because without active consciousness, we will not be able to analyze and bring the Word of God into our life. We will not be able to reveal the whole potential that God gave us. We will not be able to become effective on this earth, and we will simply turn into Pharisees who knew the scripture by heart. They will just repeat. All you can do is just repeat things you've heard. You just repeat, and then you pretend to be smart. That's why people who know the Bible by heart, what they do is that they repeat. They don't have the fruit in their lives. They cannot produce the result, and they don't even see the products in their mind. Like yesterday we were talking about these things. Like yesterday I said, bring me Ogi. Everybody can repeat that, but nobody can bring me Ogi. It's the same thing with the gospel. Everybody can quote the gospel by heart, know the Bible by heart, but when it comes to making the product out of it, they don't even know what it means. We can't become effective on this earth. We will simply turn into Pharisees who knew the scriptures by heart but did not understand and did not live according to the scripture. For greater efficiency, we recommend you to read the following books: How to Be Here and Now and How to Live at 100%. Questions. How to Live at 100% is a very important book. Here it is. And I Am a Personality. Am I a Personality? You must read that book. Reveal Your Genius. I told you in the morning why this book is important. Why Am I Not Lucky? Definitely must read this book. I will talk about it more on Sunday. How to Form a Core in Yourself. This is the topic that we talked about. Everything you start forming from 16, 18 years old. And this you can find it in this book. So we can start forming this in the child from 3 years old actually. And some people are 6 years old and the process has not even started. So this book is urgent for everyone. Here and Now. How to Be Here and Now. This is the one you should start from. Everything starts from this, How to Be Here and Now. And then the second one must be I Am a Personality. Am I a Personality? And the third one, Reveal Your Genius. Can you switch on the main light, please? And the last one, and the next one to How to Form a Core. And after that we have a personality. Sorry, a person is here and a person is not here. Okay, questions. Question 1. If somebody asks you, what kind of, would you say how much of a personality are you? If somebody asked you, what would you say when somebody would ask you how much of a personality are you before this teaching, and what would you say after this teaching? So how much of a personality are you? What would you answer to this question before this teaching? And what would you say to this question after this teaching? How much of a personality are you? Question 2. According to the stages or the levels of the scale of consciousness, what is the use for the kingdom of God if a person is on the level of consciousness? So according to the scale of consciousness, what is the use for the kingdom of God if you are on the level of consciousness? Question 3. What does efficiency of a man depend on? What does efficiency of a man depend on? Question 4. How do you understand levels of consciousness? How do you understand levels of consciousness? According to your opinion, question 5. According to your opinion, who is more able to effectively spread the kingdom of God? The person who lives in subconsciousness or the person who lives in active consciousness? Question 5. Who do you think will be more effective in spreading the kingdom of God? A person who lives in subconsciousness or a person who lives in active consciousness? And question 6. What can you personally do in order to live in active consciousness? What can you personally do in order to live in active consciousness? So how are you all doing? Are you sleeping yet? I don't know, probably we should finish. Pastor has left. Or does anybody want to share something on this topic? Okay, Pastor is around, so please do not leave yet. I always like to listen to the feedback and to hear what people have received, and then I can be confident knowing that I am doing what I'm supposed to be doing. If I'm, otherwise, if I don't see that my work brings results, then it's useful. Then I start analyzing. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe it's not necessary, and things like that. So the process of my active consciousness starts to actively look for an answer, because people are always looking for an answer. Okay, so that's it. If you're not on the stage, please be more active tomorrow. Okay, please come closer. Today I've heard this phrase that wise people know how to connect information that they receive. And I was trying to practice this and connect the information I've heard. And I want to express this in a picture, the picture I have seen. Let's say that our body is a machine or a car, and then the made decision would be like the keys to the car or the engine that helps to start the car. So the starter then. So our decision is the starter for the car. It switches the whole system on. The next one, we have will. What is will in my understanding? Will is the fuel, because only if you have fuel, the car can start moving and continue movement. And when you have no longer will, sometimes you would keep on moving by inertia, but you will stop after a short while. So without connecting our will, we will not be able to remain active. The next one is our consciousness, of course. Our consciousness, in my understanding, would only be the driver, because only the driver can, well, above all, only the driver knows where to go, the direction. And then only the driver can perceive new information and the situation on the road, analyze it, and then manage all other processes to switch, certain buttons and whatever. The next one is subconscious. Subconsciousness, I think, is all the details and parts, all the parts of the car. Because without the parts, it would not, the car would not work. So even if you have the driver, you don't have certain parts in the car, you will not be able to move. You see, she saw a picture, she drew a picture for herself. Yes, we also have instincts and reflexes. I think this would be the conditioning and lighting and the brakes and the first aid kit and and things like that. Next one is the fear and lack of confidence. And I think that would be when the car breaks, then the driver cannot move on. And so then the driver must stop his or her movement. So sometimes you're afraid to do something, so you stop, and then your subconsciousness switches off. So your name is Tanya, is it? Yeah, Tanya, you have something to give to the world. So you should not only come out to the stage, but you have to be targeting the whole Ukraine. Yes, and concentration, I would say that's speed. And there's a small conclusion I can draw. Without a decision, the car will not start. Without will, there will be not much movement, and the energy will finish, and that's it. Without subconsciousness, there will not be anything to build other systems. And without the driver, the car will not even move or start, or will get into an accident. And also, if the car does not move for a long time, so if you don't use your consciousness, the car starts to rust. So sometimes when the car stays and is not used for a long time, sometimes you even have to change all the parts because they have rusted. So because we know that parts is subconsciousness, and sometimes what we have to analyze, what is the information we have in our subconsciousness, and maybe we have to change the information that we have in our subconsciousness. So only when we have done that we can continue our movement. And I also wanted to say that sometimes when the battery has died, you need somebody to tow you. And thanks to the church and my pastor Andrei Kuksenko, the New Time Church, and thanks to your sermons, Pastor Sunday, you are my consciousness, because when you ask me questions that I have not asked myself, and by doing that you told me, and that gives me an opportunity to move. And sometimes I break again, and my pastor tows me again, and fixes me again, and then I move again. So thank you very much, because probably some parts have rusted. You see, you are bringing to your country very soon. When you turn all of this into a product, you will become one of the saviors of this nation, because this nation needs conscious people, and you will be one of them. And I want to tell you, for you to know, that I am so encouraged with your illustration that I will ask you if you can please share it with me, this illustration. I would like to learn from you. So please find my email and please share it with me, send it to me, and I will use it in my book. So I'm learning from you already. So for you to just know what kind of a potential you have. So do not just be a regular employee somewhere. You must become a redeemer for this nation. Hello, my name is Dasha. I wanted to share my thoughts about sleeping consciousness. We read a scripture from Psalm 86:5 that started with the words, "You know not, neither do you understand." And then Proverb 12:25, "The heart of a man ponders on his way." And so this is the life of a person of the third and fourth level of consciousness. But the world tells us that the less you know, the more peace you have. And that means that you don't get enough knowledge, and you have more peace. It means that you get fixed on the first or even on the 0 level of consciousness. And further it says that the Lord in the proverb says the Lord directs his step. So on the third level, on the spiritual level, when the Spirit of God is connected to the spirit of man, and only God can direct the steps of a person, only God can direct the steps only of that person who has worked on their consciousness. So God can direct only that person who has thought through his different ways that they can act, and they have active consciousness, and then God can point out the best option that you have thought through. If you you're active. Hello, my name is Svetlana. I'd like to share my conclusions. I was sitting down and thinking and analyzing, asking myself questions. I can see. I've seen you. You wrote a letter to me, but I have not read it. So I'm sorry, Pastor. You'll have time. You have a whole night ahead of you. I wanted to share my conclusions on this day on this topic. So it turns. So it looks like God gave us the body. He breathed His Spirit into us, and then He stepped aside and said, "Well, that's it, buddy. Now your turn. It's your turn. Develop yourself, feel your soul, use your consciousness." And I wanted to share one proverb that I like very much. The proverb about gifts and talents. It's from the Bible. I'm sure you know it. Matthew 25. I think that sly servant who did not multiply the talents, he would be thrown into the lake of fire, and it's not God's fault. Which means that for me to multiply those talents, like if I have 10 talents, I have to get 100 talents. Then for me to multiply the talents, I must, it's hard. Obviously, you have to use your consciousness, you have to use your mind, you have to use active consciousness to work on this. And just by being in your, sleeping regime, your snoozing regime, you won't do it. And it will not be God's fault. It's not up to Him for you to switch your consciousness on or off. You'll in the end be put in a coffin and dug, buried, and you would have left it. Then we can see what you have left on this earth, or you didn't leave anything, because there would be fruits or there won't be any fruits, and that would be it. So, Svetlana, you're saying that God worked on the spirit. It was His job, and the body was His job, and He even have sown consciousness into a man, and now He says, "You work and return the fruit to me." The same way Jesus spoke about those talents. He was given a talent, but then he was supposed to multiply, and because he did not, the servant was thrown into the lake of fire. So if you did not work even on the basic things, that the things that are in the sphere of your responsibility, then you're not able to bring fruit. And because you did not bring fruit, God has the right to reject you. And why He did not bring the fruit? Because He was sleeping in a sleeping regime. On the first level, biological sleep, you don't switch your mind on to do something. And of course it's painful to God. It's not nice, it's not pleasant that people are going to hell. But He said in His word, in this proverb, that if you don't bring anything, then you will be thrown into the lake of fire. So it's not God's fault. It depends on us. And especially after such a word that we've heard today, Pastor Sunday, this is such a huge responsibility, and you feel it's actually scary, because I've been thinking about it and asking myself, thank you very much for this information. So we'll see the fruits we have. Thank you very much. I want to thank you, Pastor. Today I have been at the fast for 4th day, and I stop myself at certain points, trying to be here and now and seeing how we understand things. And I'm trying to make conclusions and analysis. And it's been 4 days, and I feel like my brain is boiling. But I thank you, Pastor Sunday, that you have practical, you connected us to the heaven, and I've seen that my relationship with God is on the unconscious level, and I have experienced and I've seen the picture and the scale of your teaching on this fast. And thanks to what helped you? Which aspect are you talking about right now? I mean, what did I do to help you realize this? Well, you practically drew the picture, and you helped me to connect with God practically, not on the level of prayer, like morning prayer on autopilot, not on the level of reading the Bible on autopilot, but you gave me the opportunity to see and connect to the picture of me receiving what God is giving me. And today I've seen the scale of it. You told me that the active phase of forming the active consciousness is between 16 and 22 years old, and I have seen that in those years I actually killed myself because I tried alcohol and smoking and sex and relationship and marriage and having a child, and all of that happened on such an unconscious level, on the level of animal instinct. So I didn't even form myself. I did not invest anything in myself, and I've seen these teachings as an opportunity, as a call to the youth and to the future of the country to become different and change, and see the opportunity to form and build oneself, not people around you, but to work on yourself. And I thank you for the books that you're writing, and because these are practical steps on how to become different and how to become a personality. But what you teach, Pastor, you're passing on life, because this is what I experienced today. I've seen the picture of my previous life. So this is why Ukraine is actually trying to destroy me. Yes, because you do not feed the standard and of Ukraine. That's why they 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 create fake court cases for me and everything. Because what can I do? You want because why? Because you're trying to change the society, and that's what you're getting back. And another thing I saw today from the scriptures, Genesis 2:7, and it says that the man became a living soul. A living soul. So before you become a living soul, become is a verb, means you have to do something. You become, it's an action, it's not a state. You become a living soul. And it's not just a soul, it's a soul that lives. And life means action, means something is happening, something is going on. So that's another thing I saw. Thank you, Pastor.